Hello, my name is hello. My name is Thomas Zhang, and this is my final recommendation report for Group 3, the computer science group. But let's get started. So basically, the purpose of our research was basically to explore the viability of AI generated documentation as a substitute for human written documentation within the software engineering space. Our objective was to assess both methods in terms of clarity, consistency, user perception, usability, and cost across multiple update cycles. So, as computer scientists, we saw this as an issue, and honestly, a pretty prominent one in how current software engineers are using it for documentation as well as other things within the industry. So as we started our process, we started by going in depth for research. And across all our research, what we increasingly found was that organizations are turning to AI powered tools in order to streamline documentation, maintain clarity, accuracy, and coherence. Um, and it just becomes more critical than ever. Technical writing plays a crucial role in ensuring user comprehension as well as system functionality, especially for many websites out there. There are tons of things that are being supported and updated and upkept by new software engineers that come in every day that need these documentations to understand what they're working with, what they're updating, and what they're testing. So this is especially important for software development and IT operations. But through our research, we basically came into the conclusion of this question of basically how does AI generated documentation compare to human written documentation in terms of accuracy, consistency over successive updates. So in order to evaluate this, we set out to complete 5 different tasks. So task 1 was to determine accuracy variations between AI and human documentation. This was a Google form used to assess clarity and factual accuracy between the two. Our second task was to basically assess consistency over successive updates. So we had AI documentation written for 2 different websites. One before an update, one after, and we asked participants to basically assess how consistent it was. Task 3 was to evaluate user perception and comprehension of documentation quality. So how easily are these documentations able to convey professionally kind of what a software engineer would need to do to update or upkeep these kinds of tasks or use these tools. Task 4 was to assess user engagement and usability through survey feedback. But basically, how comprehensive in structure and quality are these documentations, and how usable or engaging are they? Are they hard to follow? Are they easy to follow? And our fifth one, which was basically a comparison of cost efficiency and time efficiency in documentation production, where we went out to different sources, different case studies, and journal articles to basically see where it would go. So based on our results and comprehensive results, these graphs, and I have a couple illustrations to kind of describe kind of what we found. So this figure 3, this first one, comes from task 3, but results of user perception and comprehension. So basically, as we can see, the question that was being asked is whether they believe that the documentation of the AI generated documentation was able to help, would be able to help them complete the task. And something that they came out with was a general consensus that it would, or at the very least, was a neutral kind of stance on whether it would or not. Interestingly enough, too, as well, the second one, between whether you could tell there was a difference between AI and human documentation, we see in this figure 2 that actually it does a pretty good job of, or AI written documentation does a pretty good job of replicating the structure, or at least the conveyingness of for a human to be able to distinguish between the two. And so we see that there are actually some there's pretty high similarity in between these kinds of things. Lastly, this illustration goes with task 5. And as we can see, it goes over the average cost per project, time to complete, time spent reviewing, privacy risk, scalability. And what I have below are the sources that we used. So it looks like that the cost and time actually goes to AI generated documentation to be more efficient, but the privacy risk and scalability is much higher for AI. So through our data analysis and conclusions, we determined that AI tools are cost effective and time efficient, more time cost and time efficient than human documentation. And AI tools are also good for clarity and efficiency, but only on simple tasking discussion. Something we saw within our own structure is that we may have used too simple tasks. And lastly, human written documentation is still preferred for its structure and complexity. Now, our two recommendations are one, that AI can be used in the case of software documentation. However, there does need to be some human form of intervention. It is not perfect, and it also does not perfectly replicate complexity or nuance. And our second recommendation is that in order to use AI tools, that we would enhance visual and structural consistency through standard design guidelines, um, being able to assist in its making. But here are our sources, and that is all I have for my presentation. Thank you.